Check me out right here because I really like this video. Here you have an Australian, right? He makes a meme, a finance. He makes an interesting. He asks. I can't even say that shit properly. He's he's asking a very important question here, and he wants to see if people are smart enough. Here he says there's one generation of Aussies where men have 232% more in savings than women. This is by far the biggest difference in savings out of any generation. He says, which generation do you think this is? And I already knew. He said, so he put the multiple choice. Is it either the boomer generation, the Gen X generation, Gen Y, or Gen Z? And by Gen Y, he means I'm assuming he means the millennial. So yeah. So either he's saying either the boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, aka the millennials, or Gen Z. Which generation of men are the ones with more, like 232% more in savings than women? And it's easy. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's Gen Z. So now I actually, I researched it and then he looked in the comments, but I was like, this is for sure Gen Z. And for some reason, this is what the women were shocked that it's Gen Z. And it's pretty easy to find out to know that it's Gen Z women with 232% more savings. First of all, Gen Z men are not getting married like that. They're not marrying women ad nauseum like past generations. So what would happen in the past, right, with the boomer generation, Gen X, the generations even before them, and to a lesser extent Gen Y, but Gen Z men are not they're not dating women like that. What you're having right now are the Chad and Tyrones are sweeping up, older rich men sweeping up, but they're not committing really. You know what I mean? And they're the only ones that actually want to put the finances into them. And what's interesting is a lot of, like, if you anybody that knows what Australia is, that is a feminist haven, even worse than America. And America is basically headed towards that ball. We talk about the UK and Australia, like their feminism is on a whole other level. Like they have a law in Australia where you're not even allowed to look at, it's a crime to look at girls in the club in Australia. That's how it's just ridiculous. So the unintended consequences is, though, this is what happened, because back in the day, men would go out there, date, have families, and all their money would be in these women. And then what would happen is with these divorce laws, right? Because they got the divorce laws the same way in Australia, these feminist countries, right? Men would put all their finances in these ladies, their families and whatnot, and then they would divorce. Women would take more than half, because half is the minimum that they take. People always say, "Oh, they're going to take half your stuff." It's minimum. That's the minimum damage that you're going to take. Most of the time, men lose more than half their stuff, because it's not just half their assets; they also lose their children as well, while still having to pay for them too. Interesting. So you got Gen Z men, right? You got women saying they don't need a man, right? And all this stuff now. So women have now taken it a step further. I don't need him. I'm good. I'm making my decisions. So Gen Z, what people don't understand is men don't need to buy houses like that. This will be like, they don't, men, if men know that they're going to be single for most of their life, or they're content with being single, or they just think they have no chance of getting a family, men, without that, they don't need to purchase the stuff. That all they need is literally a TV, a chair, and a bed, and a microwave, and they're straight. They don't really need none of the fancy ish that all this, people don't understand. All the stuff that men buy and all this stuff is for women. Is to put themselves in a position to get better women, more available women. You know what I mean? Or to get women to have a family. So when they have a family, okay, they're gonna buy the house. Okay, they're gonna buy. So all the money is going. They're going to put the money in the family. Now that Gen Z women have the money, they're just spending the money on themselves frivolously. Not a whole lot of savings, right? Now, the trick is, a lot of women think they're doing better than men, but there's a lot of men out there, since they're not, if they have a decent job, they're not spending it on women, they're not spending it on fancy cars, they're not spending it on houses. There's a lot of Gen Z men out there, not only just in Australia, but even here in America, people don't even realize there are men that will call on be calling up on these shows and be like, look, I got this amount of money saved up. I don't have a family. I'm talking about men calling in on these shows, talking about they got $50,000 saved up. And they're just confused because they're like, they don't know, okay, should I start a family with this? What do I do? They don't know what to do. They have so much money saved up. They don't even know what to do with it. A lot, like men, and I'll say this now with this information, with this RP space, right? And they're realizing, damn, man, women they're just on some different ish on the gold digging and taking good, decent men to family court and child support and all this. They're just like, let me just keep my assets over and let me just stay away from these 304s. So you have Australia and you got the women and men separated, basically, where basically only the Chads and the rich men are putting money into these 304s. They're the only ones actually putting money into these people. And you have now Gen Z, they got their own money, but they're not saving it. They're a lot of them student debt. I don't know how it is in Australia, how the school system works. I don't know if they got free schooling over there or whatever, but they're still going to be in debt because they're women. So now you have a discrepancy because men they don't spend money like that. They don't if they don't think they can get a girl, especially in Australia where they're making it where they make it they just make it like, okay, average men, you can't get no hoes here, none for you. They're like, okay, I'll just have this money, all right, and they have all this money saved up because they're not going to spend it on much if they don't think they can really do anything with it to attract a mate. So they got all this money, and then you have all these women here spending it frivolously, and no plan. And for some weird reason, like this is the thing, because women kill me with this. They still think they're doing better than the men, and they got no. I'm talking about they're not even keeping. They're in so much debt. They're in like the way net negative. I'm talking about $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a in a net negative. And here you're not even close to even a better position financially than a male cashier at CVS. That's probably rooming with like two dudes, whatever, playing Fortnite once they get home, and then just going to work the next day. Getting oh man. Oh man. That's funny though. That's hilarious. That's funny though. Oh man. Sorry, I had to check something on my phone. But it's they don't even realize, like, women just like, I don't think economically, financially wise, they're just not, they can never put two and two together when it comes to this. So right here, because people don't understand the generations before them, the reason why men would be broke is because they put all their money in their families. And then once and if something happened, they separate, they still got to take care of it. And what ends up happening, what people don't understand, when you have kids, you don't really stop paying for kids after they turn 18. They're still gonna need help for college, right? They're still gonna need help if they need a car loan. You're still gonna, a lot of boomer parents are still taking care of their kids, and their kids will be like 30, 40 years old. And they're still putting money in their kids. That's how things work. And when we talk about parents, it's mostly men that are still taking care of their 30-year-old daughters, 40-year-old daughters. Like, this is how it works. But now that you have like a separation, especially when you're talking about Australia, of course it's gonna be the Gen Z dudes that got more saved up than the 304s. It's obvious. And it's interesting. He puts a question here, right? And he wasn't even trying. I don't even think he was trying to make it a whole gender thing. He was just trying to lay out something, the dichotomy between the generations, and how the boomers are always the boomer men and the Gen X men are always perceived to have the most money and all this assets. But really, when you look at the Gen Z men, and people calling them losers, but they got more money saved up, right? The losers, the so-called Gen Z men losers, right? They got more saved up than the boomers and all those stuff. Is because in Australia is because there's a separation, really, of the genders in Australia, and the men are not putting their money in families, and men just don't. They don't the money that they just don't spend money like that. So here you got the women they're like, how? What is happening in the Gen Z space? I thought boomers for sure. Nah, boomer men are most likely to just give the money because they're old fashioned, right? It's not about the money that you make a lot of the times. It's about the money that you keep. So here you have this comment right here. He said, I think most young men probably aren't going to college and are going into trades. So I give it a few years and he said, and the gals will catch up. Now, I disagree with this part. He said the gals will catch up. No, they will not. No, they will not. No, they will not. And here, this is the bingo comment right here that I liked. He said the boomer woman would just initiate the divorce and got half, and that goes with millennial women. That goes with Gen X women, particularly Gen X women. Younger women not getting married, thinking influencing will take care of them. So that's Gen Z women. They just think, oh, I got a peace leave. I know my worth. I know my value. I don't need these ninjas. And they've taken it a step too far. And now look what it's getting them. So because you got these men now, right? Even though they're not going to college, even if they're like the general manager of a Stop and Shop, they're not they're not going to college, right? Or and then on top, so they're not having that massive debt on them. Then on top of that, say if he doesn't have to take care of his parents, or say if he's still living with his parents, okay, and then he picks up a trade, he could really put himself financially in a position where he can save a lot of money if he's still living with his parents. He didn't go to college, but he picks up a trade, and he's like not participating in the dating market because right they don't like blue collar dudes. They think they're useless and whatnot. Let's that's women's mind frame. So right here. So here, this is a comment right here. He said, Gen Z, the disparity isn't systemic, it's cultural. Young men are living minimalist lifestyles, content with living frugally, while young women unfortunately fall prey to consumerism, chasing the latest trends and such. It's pretty simple, but this is what I want you to pay attention to. So right here, this is the normie comment right here. She's like, I'm assuming the generation of women that stayed home to raise children while the men worked and had their super paid. Meanwhile, the waves did unpaid household work. No. No, you're actually wrong. It wasn't the boomers. So she just automatically thinks it was the boomer men that had these women oppressed in the Gen X, particularly the boomer men. Meanwhile, the wives did unpaid domestic labor. they're retarded. I'm sorry, women are retarded when it comes to this stuff, bro. Because it's pretty simple. Because when I saw it, and he gave it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's Gen Z men. I'm pretty sure. Because even if they're not even making a lot of money, they still got more saved up than hoes. Because it's with the debt that women just naturally get themselves into. it's gonna be pretty obvious. Because I already know in America, they say, oh, the Gen Z men are losers. A lot of them are feminine. And all the, but I'm pretty sure when it comes to savings, he's talking about savings, guys, not income. He's not talking about income. He's talking about savings. Now, for some weird reason, this idiotic 304 doesn't understand when the boomer men would make the money would go, most of the money is going towards the family. It's going towards the house, the kids, most of it. So the money is under her name as well. Same thing with Gen X, particularly with Gen X, where it's like the money is definitely, and then that's during that time when Gen X people were born, when you talk about late 60s, 70s, right? They were born during a time of when they're starting to implement no-fault divorce and all this stuff. So you're literally talking about the men during that time that were working during this time. The money is in both the man and the woman's name. So even whatever the man had saved up, it's saved up for the family, not just for himself. And under that, guys, it would go for the women as well. So when they implement those divorce laws, whatever he makes, she's taking it as well, because we already know what the saying is. What's it? His money is our our money. Her money's her money. You know what I mean? That's the saying. But for some reason, I don't know. Like women cannot. I don't understand, because when you see a comment like this is somebody that's heavily indoctrinated in feminism. So she's already assuming, oh, the women back then were broke and had no agency. No. You guys have all the agency now when you guys have no money. I'm talking about, it's not even like you have zero money. I'm talking about they're in debt. I'm talking about hundreds and thousands, some of them hundreds of thousands, a lot of them $100,000 in debt, $50,000 in debt off of school alone. And they're just shocked. And people don't understand, like young men are not going to college like that anymore. So you're already taking. They don't even have to start off, even if they just go into the workforce as a KFC manager. I don't know what they got in Australia. Outback as an Outback Steakhouse supervisor. They're still a level up financially from Bishes over there because they're going to be in debt. The key is to not be in debt. I don't know how many times people have to say if you're living, it's basically like slavery. You're working for free basically because you're paying off this debt and you're not really. But like I, people think that the debt is not going to just go away magically. This is why they want socialism so bad because they know they can't pay this debt off. they know this. You know what I mean? So here somebody had to finally correct her. Said nope, it's Gen Z. Gen Z have more savings now. So now here she don't want to take the L. She goes, I don't know who's what. So you thinking the men right now are oppressing the women now with unpaid domestic, bruh, bitches don't even want to cook no more, man. What are you talking about? So now I want, people are like, okay, what's your excuse? She can't even find one. Can't even find one. This is a stupid bitch. So here now we're gonna have a woman here making excuses. She goes, love the immediate response being online shopping, Taylor Swift concerts as if sports tickets, video games, and beer doesn't exist. Having interest and allocating some money into actually enjoying life in a shit economy is not the reason behind the inequality between. So she's still on that. She's still on that gender wage gap thing. Oh my God. I would say this: if you meet somebody in life talking about the gender wage gap, just be like, look, I can't talk to you. Just if you meet somebody in life that's still on this gender wage gap thing, this is somebody that is completely lost. That has been debunked. I don't know how many times women are just still pushing that gender wage. There's none of that. That's a myth. Gender wage gap is a myth. Jesus, man. And yes, you can enjoy things, online stuff, but like I said, that costs money. And you're spending it. You're not saving it. And he's just pointing out facts. Men are saving in this generation more money than the women here. And it's not necessarily that men are intending to do that. It's just they don't have a family. So if you put it up to the sexes separately, what to do with their money and whatnot, men are, for the most part, are going to be able to save more money because they don't need the space that you think they'd put two and two together, but they just can't. They just can't. Now they say we can't enjoy nice things. It's just like, oh my God. There's no hope. There's no hope for them. There's no hope for them, man. You see, now this is. You see, look at this comment. She's like, I'm more interested in dissecting why. And guess what the biggest impact is, ladies? Pregnancy. What are you talking, bruh? There are countries right now where women are just like refusing to have kids, dog. Like I'm talking about in Italy, it's 3 months they went without a single birth. You got South Korea because the genders are basically separated. And if they are together, they're not trying to have kids. Unless it's from a rich dude or an athlete. They're not actively trying to have kids with the average man. So you got them, marching for. I'm talking about almost about to cry because they couldn't do abortion anymore, right? And she want to talk about now. You see how they want to act like that. You see how they want to flip it. But we get pregnant, bruh. Gen Z women, especially in Australia, Gen Z women, they're not getting pregnant not like that. Yeah, Lord, not in Australia. I know that for a fact. They always have an excuse. They always have an excuse. Just pay attention to these comments now, right here. This is one of the smartest comments right here. He says the generation that didn't get married and lose half of it. Obviously, that's going to be Gen Z men. Oh, here we go. Unlocked a lot of misogyny in your following here, mate. Oh my God. It's just, that's just, yeah, that's just like, they don't get it. But I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if I can put the link of this video in the bio. So this is where I found the answer here, where he said the answer is Gen Z. He said, I had my money on boomers. Now that's interesting that the finance guru thought it was going to be the boomer men that had more savings than the women, but it's really the Gen Z. But it's pretty obvious. Online shopping. Yeah. You know what I mean? More excuses, more excuses, more excuses. Uh, oh, man. Like I said, it's there's no point. There's no point in helping. And then you got feminist men trying to come to these hoes' defenses. Like I said, especially when you're talking about math, finance, simple basic economics, it's damn near pointless to explain these things to people. And they don't even realize how much it's going to affect the like Australia's future is going to be very interesting. They're going to have a very interesting future indeed.